Chapter 1133. I was not prepared for this. I didn't think it would happen so soon. I thought we'd spend some time touring the country or something, exploring the Sun World, before really getting into any of the major arc plot developments, but no, we were already thrown into the deep end with the introduction of Loki and the Underworld, and now this. It's been noted already by everyone that elbaf is going to be the culmination of decades of story threads, of build-up, of foreshadowing to bring together this huge arc, and this just so happens to be the next one off of that checklist, because in real world time it's been 736 chapters and almost 19 years since these two characters last saw each other, truly shared a page with each other back in chapter 397, released in January 2006. I was one singular year old at the time. And this is obviously not including Black Maria's illusions in Wano, and as for in-world time, it's been 22 years since the Ohara incident, so even though it's happening a little earlier than I was expecting, it's about time that Saul and Robin got to reunite with each other. Opening with a flashback, it's a mix of old and new content from the point of view of other characters like Spandine, who was the chief of CP9 at the time, and he is also the father of Spandam. Which means these guys were gunning for Robin literally on a generational level. Both father and son made her suffer unimaginably. Although it's pretty safe to say that this won't continue to the next generation, not only because Luffy is obviously going to liberate the world, but also what kind of person of sound body and mind would consciously make the decision to have a child with this. So thankfully, I think the bloodline will end with Spandam. But on a more serious note, the most difficult part of this chapter was the revelation. Well, it's not really a revelation since we know all about what Robin has been through, so anyone could have made this assumption that she would have been pushed to this point, but it's clear here that Robin was really weighing up if life was worth living or not, and including another little snippet of a flashback at the end of the chapter, I'm really reminded heavily of the Kuma backstory after he found out that his mother died, because this is such a sensitive topic that Oda is able to handle with such care, and the subject isn't used just for the sake of shock factor, and as a whole the display of emotion in One Piece is just something special. It always feels genuine. Any looks of relief, relaxation, laughter, joy, sadness, despair, anger, there's nothing that comes close to it, in my opinion. And before even getting into the details of Saul in this chapter, to get to him they need to take a flying ship that uses clouds, and Lilith mentions that the unique conditions of the country of Elbaf enables that technology to work, and the Sun World is very high up, at least a few kilometers. Since we see island clouds, I would put the elevation of it at around, or maybe just below the White Sea at 7,000 meters, so maybe around like 5,000 meters, in that kind of range, and revisiting the Egghead arc to break down the technology behind this ship even further. When flying up to the research stratum, Lilith discusses the island clouds that formed there in chapter 1064, and says they controlled the island's atmosphere and used pyrobloin to coagulate and alter the density of water vapor, which creates the island clouds that form the Sky Islands, with pyrobloin being a particle that can absorb the atmospheric moisture to form said clouds. And of course, with the Sun World of Elbaf, it has the perfect atmosphere for such technology, and that's such a great little intricate piece of world building. It's basically steam powered since it's using clouds, so on a fantastical level that fits with the already established rules of the world, and it's a little thing that goes a really long way, and it also kind of answers why there aren't flying ships all over the world with a fully realized explanation. Apart from the tech not being widely available, it will only function with specific atmospheric conditions. And Saul is a history professor, so he's taking after the scholars of Ohara. This role he's taking up is keeping their work and memory alive in a way. It does make me wonder though, this is the biggest question that I now have following this chapter, which is, where is the line between the true history of the world and the mythology of Nika? Because Elbaf is assumedly the last location that still actively worships the sun gods, still has a strong connection to their old beliefs, their mythology, presumably because the world government wiped everyone else out. But Elbaf is Elbaf, the country's too strong for them to take down. So there's the country's beliefs, and then there's the Ohara research into the Void Century and beyond maybe. That research definitely uncovered some details of Joyboy, which in turn would have most likely revealed some information on Nika. So what I'm trying to get at is, How accurate is Elbaf's mythology to the true history? Because with Saul as a history professor now, he's going to be teaching about history amongst other things, and it would make sense that the giants grow up being told stories of Nika. So those are two entirely separate sources of information, and with the knowledge that Joyboy and Nika are not one in the same, then the legend of Nika must go way further back than the Void Century if Joyboy were to have the Nika Devil Fruit during the Void Century. So I would then ask, how much of the giant's mythos is actually about Joyboy's action from 800 to 900 years ago that has been misinterpreted as Nika's, like just over time the exploits of Joyboy melded together with that of Nika. For instance, I can see a situation where maybe it's the point in this arc that some of the Void Century details are being revealed maybe by Saul, and either Dory or Broggy will tell a tale about Nika, and then in the future when we get the full Void Century flashback way further down the line, we end up seeing Joyboy doing those exact same things from the story thanks to the Nika fruit that he had. And there's also a second flashback that shows how Saul was able to survive after being frozen by Kuzan. The massive flames covering the island had assumedly melted the ice which freed him but left his body burned. I remember a theory which stated that Kuzan purposefully spared Saul's life because the name of his attack was Ice Time Capsule, which I guess would mean the ice would melt naturally over time before killing him. But that wasn't the case, and that means Kuzan truly meant to kill Saul in that moment, which, given his current situation and the circumstances that led to that, is very interesting. I guess he really was just trying to gaslight himself into thinking he was doing the right thing. He was on the right side of history. Plus, Saul was already in the sea when he woke up, since Ohara is in the West Blue, and if my One Piece geography is correct, the West Blue is next to the New World side of the Grand Line. So I think it makes enough sense that Saul could have made his way there somehow, since we don't actually find out as Robin cuts him off. And with the detail of Saul being heavily burned, I've seen some thinking that this is confirmation of him being the man marked by flames. I don't think so still, because we don't know about any pitch black ship that he may own, nor does he have any reason to own such a ship, since he is kilometers off of sea level in a giant tree and has been there for over 2 decades, and I don't think he would have ever left. And also, how would he make those giant whirlpools that the man marked by flames is infamous for? So whoever that person is still very much up in the air. And you know what, that topic isn't really that relevant, because what is relevant is the actual reunion that is enough to make a grown man cry. Just like the first day they met, Saul lay face down on a beach. He feigned unconsciousness to prank Robin because he didn't know what to do, which is such a nice detail, because how do you act in such a situation? Imagine you're meeting an old friend after a few years. That's already an awkward enough situation, even if you are friends, because it's been such a long time. So imagine having to reunite with someone 22 years after you were both face to face with death. There is no guide on how to do that. Robin mentions that his laugh is still weird, just as she did in their first meeting, and really a Robin Dereshishishi laugh in the next chapter or something would just be the cherry on top of all of this. And the hug, just the warmest of hugs as she tells him to praise her for living this long. I said it before, I will say it again, I will say it 1000 times over. The way that One Piece and Oda conveys emotion in this story is head and shoulders above everyone else. After everything she's been through, all the hardships, the struggles, and I love the way that Saul does it, the way that he obliges, like he's telling everyone what Robin had to suffer through and how strong she is. He's shouting it to the whole One Piece world that this is what she's made of. And top that off with the Straw Hats just breaking down in tears and a big Luffy smile as well. Luffy is smiling all the time, and yet you can still see the specific emotions behind each of his smiles, if that makes sense. Robin was not born into this world to be alone, and she found those friends that would protect her, each and every one of them. Just everything about this reunion was so nice, so cozy, so fulfilling. She has all of these people crying for her sake, for the sake of her happiness. and all of them who are still around are all gathered here now. And now I do wonder what the interactions between Saul himself and the other Straw Hats will look like in presumably the next chapter, because there is a break, but you know what, that's fine for Oda's health and well-being, of course, but it also means that I can stay on this emotional high for a little while longer, because I can only assume that the reunion taking place this early means that there's a lot in the future that could go very badly wrong very quickly. So let's just stick with this for a bit. Let the tears roll down your face, let the smile stretch from ear to ear, from the tree of knowledge on Ohara to the treasure tree Adam on Elbaf. All the books, the scriptures, the information has been transferred from one tree to the other. It's fitting how Saul has ended up here, given how he was bad-mouthing the giants of Elbaf when we first met him. It's a happy day today for Saul and for Robin, and with them now back together, it's soon gonna be time, I think, for those massive lore dumps that will reveal some new details about the true history.